Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for being here firstly. I know that I am not the most technical person and these videos aren't exactly that high on the entertainment rating scale, but I hope that you find them somewhat helpful, and that is my only reason for doing these, is to be helpful. I kind of imagine you guys listening to these as you're going out for a walk or something like that. So I hope you're not just kind of watching this hoping to be entertained, because it's more informative than it is entertaining for sure. So anyway, the topic today is how to not let a deficit take over your life. So I put it on my Instagram stories. People voted, and this was the number one topic that everyone chose to talk about, which I'm really happy about because it is a topic that I'm very passionate about, that's very meaningful to me. So I guess I'll give you my story of where I've come from, so that I can give you some perspective as to how I've been able to adjust my mindset. So I have been in a very heavy diet mentality. I say deficit mentality, diet mentality. I guess that's a really nice way of saying it, but really what I mean is I was obsessed with losing weight. I was obsessed with losing weight, not fat. And that's why I use the term fat loss quite heavily now, because weight loss and fat loss are two different things. So weight loss is when you're quite hyper-focused and fixated on the scale and you just want to see that number go down. You don't care where the weight is getting lost from, what it composes of. You don't care if it's water, if it's muscle, whatever. You just want to see that scale go down. So that is, to me, quite an unhealthy way of looking at things. Been there, done that. Now I talk about fat loss, because when I lose weight on the scale, I want it to be fat. I want to lose fat. I don't want to lose my muscle mass. That's what I'm trying to preserve and hang on to now. And that to me indicates and it's very indicative of my new mindset. Back in the day, I would not have cared where that weight came from. I just wanted to lose weight. So anyway, I just want to preface it by saying that. So deficit mentality, fat loss mentality, obsessed with losing weight, all the same. So where I've come from is a place where I had no balance. I was very cardio focused. I would work out 7 days a week. Workouts would not be hypertrophy focused whatsoever. So I guess it was a very cardio heavy emphasis. I should backtrack even further. So I guess when you look at this, it'd be really interesting if you could just take a step back and say, why? Why are we so focused on fat loss? Why are we so focused on losing weight, on being smaller versions of ourselves? I know for a fact a lot of women, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this, just always in the back of your mind, want to lose weight. It's just always there in the back of your mind. It's like, why? Why? Some of you watching this, I'm sure, don't even have that much weight to lose. And I was there. I didn't have that much weight to lose. I was never very overweight, ever. Always less than 10 kilos to lose, really. So where does this come from? I think a lot of it sometimes comes from a control aspect. So when things start going wrong in our lives, as we start getting older, as things start to become, there's less control in our lives, this is one thing that we feel like we can control, even if it is just the mentality over it. Even if we just think that we have control over it, it's one thing that we like to put into a little package and think that we have control over. I have worked with a fair few women where I do believe that this is where it's come from. It becomes worse when things are less going their way and more out of control. The other thing, obviously, where it comes from is external pressure, conditioning, through media, through people that we see in the media a lot. I mean, think of back to Princess Di days. Even now, I mean, now it's just so bad. Instagram, Facebook, whatever, everyone that you're flooded with pictures of these women that are in great shape. So there's just always this pressure to look a certain way. So I do believe that that's where it comes from. a combination of different factors, but maybe it comes from other places. So it's something for you to look at yourself, because it is quite an interesting thing to stop and have a look at and really investigate. For me, my first memory of all of this, because when you think about it, kids don't look at themselves, generally speaking, and think, I need to lose some weight. Like, it comes from somewhere. So I remember in primary school, a kid called me, I don't like this word when I'm talking about someone's physique, FAT. He called me FAT. I can say fat loss. I can use it like that, but I don't like saying it as that person is fat. I don't know why. Probably because of this story I'm about to tell you, but I just hate it. So I remember a kid called me FAT at primary school, and that was probably my first memory of being shamed about my body. And then I think I was about 12, and my mum's friend, we'd been to the beach, and my mum's friend said to me, or said to my mum, can't remember, she said, gee, I think to my mum, she said, gee, Rebecca's put on some weight. And I was like, and that really hit me. I remember it so clearly. I can even remember where we were. And went home. I was quite upset about it. Mum made me a salad for lunch. And I'm not saying my mum's at fault, because this was a different generation, obviously. She was trying to help. Anyway, I ended up going to Weight Watchers, and I was not that overweight. I was chubby, but I was not unhealthily overweight. Let's just put it that way. I've never been unhealthily overweight. I was chubby, though. That would be a word I would use. But anyway, I didn't have a problem with it until someone brought it to my attention because they had a problem with it. So that's kind of sad. So anyway, went to Weight Watchers, ended up doing weigh-ins, counting points, all of that stuff, going in weekly. And I remember that feeling going in, and you had to take your log with you, with your weights and stuff. And if the scale had gone down, it was like, woo. And if the scale had gone up or it hadn't moved, it was just this horrible feeling of like, oh, like you'd failed. And I remember leaving for the night and just being upset. Like, it was just so awful. And such a young age to be going to Weight Watchers. I guess it's kind of the equivalent of Slimming World in the UK. But anyway, so it started for me a long time. Like, I started young with this stuff. Then fast forward, mid-20s, bought a gym, became a personal trainer, worked in there and owned it for 7 years. Prior to that, I was a wedding coordinator, just side note, loved doing that. But anyway, wanted to work for myself. So became a personal trainer, had all of that additional pressure on to look a certain way. Being a personal trainer, owning a gym, you were held to a different standard. Wanted to look a certain way, even though I knew how to train people and look at people very objectively, like I could make a plan, I couldn't do that for myself. I was just spinning my wheels. I was eating kind of as little as I could, really, and just exercising crazily, 7 days a week. This went on for, this is like long-standing 10 plus years of this. Had my first child, continued to exercise, had to bounce back because I owned the gym. Just lots of pressure I put on myself. This was all pressure now I was putting on myself to look a certain way. So let me talk about where I was at mentally, because you might be able to relate to this or some of this. So it was a constant diet mentality. It was always this restrictive feeling, restriction, excess daily cardio, 7 days a week. If I went one day without exercising, not walks, like exercising, I would at least run. I started running, and I would run nearly every day, 8 to 10 kilometers a day. And sometimes I would also do, like, remember Les Mills, I think they still do it, Les Mills pump classes, or I would do, after I had kids, I would do backyard style classes. I would sometimes watch them on TV, like on YouTube. I would do the Les Mills pump at home, plus a run, push the kids in the pram, running. Just very cardio heavy. It was not coming from a place of, why am I doing this? Logic, longevity, health. It was not coming from that point of view. Fitness, it wasn't coming from that. It was definitely coming from restriction, losing weight mentality. I just wanted to lose weight. It was just as simple as that. And that's what I thought I had to do. I just thought I had to smash myself with cardio and eat as little as possible, even though I wasn't tracking what I was eating. So there was definitely good and bad foods, very good versus bad food thing. If I ate bad foods, as I would label them, I would feel like I needed to punish myself with cardio, restrict, just very unhealthy. There was just no balance. I tried all the fads. I tried keto. I tried intermittent fasting. After I had my second child, I started studying nursing, and this obviously was quite intense in terms of the pracs. And then when I started on the ward, I was working 5 shifts a week. My husband was FIFO, so he was working away. I would eat, like, my food was like last on the agenda. It was always just feeding the kids. I would eat as little as possible. I was getting lots and lots of steps in, and then I would also have that pressure to work out before or after I went to work. So because my husband was away, it usually would be in the backyard. I was just, in a very bad mentality and mindset, and very unhealthy. I had a very bad relationship with my body, with myself, really, because I obviously I didn't think very highly of myself, because I was never happy with where I was. And physically, I was never, looking back now, it's like I was not even overweight. It's just so sad to think that I wasted all of those years being so focused on this. If I didn't get my workout done in the morning, I would get to the afternoon, it would be on my mind all day, and then I would just have to force myself to do it in the afternoon or evening. Or if I didn't get it done, it would ruin my day if I didn't do a workout. I was very fixated on that, and I was very fixated on the scale. So I just wanted that scale to go down. I remember when I did keto, the scale would go down like daily. Scale would go down daily, and it was just fluid. And I kind of knew that, but I was just so happy to see the scale go down. I did not care that it was just fluid. I was just so happy to see the scale go down. It was just a very unhealthy mentality, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. So that is where I was at. I hope that some of you can relate to that, because what I'm about to talk about is sort of where you want to be and how that's going to look and how that's going to feel and how you can get there. Because living where I was and in that mentality is like a prison of your own making, to some degree, where you're mentally consumed by this stuff. It takes over your life. Like, as I said, like, my days were not complete unless I had done a workout, and then I would try to eat as little as possible. Sometimes after my workout, I would just see how long I can go without eating. And I didn't have anorexia, I didn't have bulimia, I didn't have any like labeled disorders, but it was very, very disordered. My life, my approach to diet and exercise was not healthy. So yes, now I'm going to delve into some of the more practical strategies and the horizon for where you might want to be. Okay, so I hope that wasn't too long-winded for you guys, but I really wanted to paint a really good picture of that, how it felt and why I was there. And it was quite chronic. So let's look now at the aim of where you want to be and why you might be watching this video. So, and I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm really glad that you're watching this video, because if I can help anyone out of that mentality, I would be a happy lady. So the aim would be, if I was to define it in a couple of words, would be mental space, freedom, mental freedom away from being consumed by that. Having some sort of simplicity in your approach to diet and exercise, having balance, not having the good versus bad food relationship. So embracing and enjoying all foods, having no foods that are off limits. Like, even if you're in a fat loss, you can include any food that you like in your fat loss. So definitely balance when it comes to exercise, having a look at your approach and knowing why you're doing it. So having for example, with exercise, this is the number one thing that I think of when I think of just looking at taking a step back and figuring out why you're doing it. So with exercise, if you are exercising at the moment, why are you doing it? Be honest. Are you doing that because you want to lose weight and you want to be smaller? If that is why, I really encourage you to take a step back from that and stop doing it for a little bit and do some like internal questioning and some research around it all. So I don't know how to say this without making it sound too black and white, because I'm not a big fan of black and white thinking. There is a lot of areas for grey in health and fitness. What works for one person won't work for another person. There's a fine line between doing very cardio focused workouts where you get a sweat on, fine line between doing those for weight loss and for doing those for mental health, because I think getting a sweat on and really working hard is really good for your mind, your mental health, as I just said. So the endorphins start running and you feel good afterwards. You feel really good after getting a sweat on. The problem comes when that is your strategy for also losing weight. That should not be your number one strategy for losing weight. Please, if that is what you're doing at the moment and that's your main reason why you're doing them and you don't even enjoy those cardio classes or whatever it is, put it on the back burner for a little bit, and I want you to take a step back and we're going to try to implement some new plan here. So knowing the why. Exercise, for me now, I don't do a lot of cardio. I do zone 2 cardio. There is a very clear reason for that, and that is literally for my cardiovascular health. And I'll probably only do it once or twice a week for 15 minutes at a time, sometimes 20, on the elliptical at the gym. It's when your heart rate is in a certain zone, and because of the exercise itself, you're primarily using your cardiovascular system to work. So it's very good for your cardiovascular health, basically. It doesn't exhaust any other body systems. It's not going to overly exhaust any other muscular systems. It's primarily just going to exhaust your cardio. So it's really good for your heart, basically. So I'll occasionally do zone 2, like once or twice a week. I do walking for my mental health. I'll listen to a podcast. Maybe you could listen to something like this when you're out walking. I learn when I'm walking. I am entertained when I'm walking. Sometimes I'll listen to an entertaining podcast. Sometimes I'll listen to an educational podcast. It's just so nice to be out in the fresh air. It's good for incidental movement. Just for longevity as well, for heart health, for you get vitamin D if the sun's out, which is so important because a lot of us are quite deprived of vitamin D these days. Bone strength, bone density, mobility, so many benefits to walking, endless benefits. So I absolutely love walking now, and it helps me reach my step goal, which is 10,000 steps a day. And that is my main form of cardio, so to speak. I now lift weights and I love it. Like, it has been a game changer for me. So it's a very progressive mindset. It's not restrictive. It's not like burn as many calories as you can. It's lift as heavy as you can. And you can feel the benefits of your hard work because you start lifting heavier and heavier and you see muscles. Right now, I'm in a cut. I'm in a fat loss. So I'm starting to see the muscles that I developed during my build. And that is really cool. So it gives a whole new perspective to this whole weight loss thing, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know, I think innately us women are always going to want to strive for a different body for some reason when we should really be happy with what we have. And me starting to lift weights and take it down on the cardio and implement my walking, that has really helped me to appreciate my body so much more. I very proudly can say, I now love my body. I have a newfound respect for my body. And I never had this before. Like, I've never had this before, where I've actually really appreciated my body. And that is pretty crazy when you think about it. I'm 40 this year and I'm in the best shape probably of my whole life. And I have not just physically, but mentally as well. So anyway, just knowing the why behind the exercises that you choose is important. So exercise is not necessary for fat loss. The number one thing for fat loss is nutrition and food intake. And the number one thing that you need to know is that food intake and being in a deficit, you can eat whatever you want. There is no restrictions around food intake. So we want to make sure that we have a big balance around all of that. Food, exercise, everything's got to be balanced. Lose the attachment to the scale. We don't want to have any attachment emotionally to the scale. So I'll get into that a little bit further on. But if you're going to look at body composition and improving your body composition, then the scale has to become somewhat irrelevant. But it is going to be relevant, but it's also not going to be as emotional for you. The next thing is that, and kind of correlated to that, is that you want to focus more on your health and your body composition than losing weight, getting skinny, losing weight, getting skinny. Let's look at it from a health point of view. If you showed me purely aesthetically, if you were to show me a picture of your ideal body composition or body, it would probably require you to build some muscle. Like, a lot of us, especially women, are under-muscled. As we get into perimenopause and menopause, one of the best things that you can do to get you through those years is to build some muscle. Muscle will increase your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism at rest. It will help prevent osteoporosis. It will just help you with aging more gracefully because you're not going to be as prone to falls and injuring yourself. So muscle, there's just so many benefits to focusing on building some muscle. So anyway, they are the aims. So you want to have this whole new look on things. Sounds easy. Sounds like, oh yeah, that would be great. But it takes a lot of work. So I'm going to get into the how, but it will take you guys actually taking a step back and like having a think about this. You might need to do a lot more research. You might need to listen to a lot more podcasts about this sort of stuff to really be convinced. But the fact that you're listening to this is a really good start. So I'm going to get into the how now. Okay, let's talk about the how now, which is probably why you've come here. So you're probably not here to listen to me waffle on about all of that, but I think it gives it a little bit more context. So let's now talk about how to not let a deficit take over your life, because that is horrible and it's not a nice way to live. So I actually came up with the 3S approach. I just came up with it because I think sometimes it's nice to have like a neat little package that you can follow. So number one, the first S is stages. Periodizing your nutrition. This is a game changer. So you don't want to live in that fat loss forever. So physiologically, you aren't going to be in a deficit for the whole year. Your body will resist, your body will adapt to low calories, and you will stop losing weight at such a rate. Your metabolism will just keep adapting and down regulating. You'll just drive yourself into a hole, quite basically. So you're not actually going to be in a deficit forever. What you need to do is you need to stage your fat losses. So, okay, let's just say you've got over 20 kilos to lose. You most likely are not going to lose all of that, most probably, and not going to lose all of that in one fat loss stage. So what you'll need to do is go for, say, someone with more weight to lose can probably do 12 to 16 weeks in a fat loss. So you're going to do 12 to 16 weeks in a deficit, and you're going to track your food intake. You're going to, find a sustainable calorie deficit for you, a sustainable approach to exercise, but remembering that the number one thing that is actually going to get you into that deficit is going to be your food intake. So you're going to monitor that, you're going to manage that, you're going to track it. 12 to 16 weeks, you're going to be in a fat loss stage. And then you're probably not going to be at your goal by the end of that time. So the natural instinct is just to keep on going. But if you really want to get yourself out of this mentality, you need to have a break. So what that looks like is reversing your calories slowly back up to your new maintenance, which might be a little bit lower than where you started because you're a smaller person. So you slowly reverse your calories back up to hit your maintenance, which is really just a game of trial and error to see where that ends up. Do it slowly over a matter of a couple of weeks, a few weeks, remembering that you're still going to be in a deficit until you get to that maintenance. So you might want to start, if your goal is to be in a fat loss for 12 to 16 weeks, you might want to start reversing at 13 weeks so that by the 16th week, you're actually in maintenance. And then you want to live in maintenance for a little bit. You want to give your body a break. You might go another 12 to 16 weeks in maintenance. Ideally, you want to be in maintenance for the same amount of time that you were in the fat loss. So go for 12 to 16 weeks, stay in maintenance, have a break, implement some balance, keep it under control, don't go crazy, remembering that this is a break. It's not a time for you to be in a surplus. You need to stay within, you need to keep it monitored. So you're just going to try and have that balanced mindset. Like you're going to enjoy eating a little bit more. You're going to feel better in the gym. You're going to have more energy in the gym. You could probably focus more on building some more muscle. Muscle requires energy to build. So maintenance and even being in a slight surplus are really good times to focus on muscle growth and development. And that's what I did. So I spent a couple of different concentrated periods just eating a little bit more and focusing on lifting heavier and building muscle. And then when you get the fat off, you actually have got some tone and some muscle definition to see for it. So fat loss, maintenance, and then you're going to jump back into another fat loss. Probably depending on how much you have to lose, you could do another 12 weeks. If you still have quite a bit to lose, you could do 16, but I'm going to say that that's mainly for the first time when you've really got a lot to lose. So try to keep them to like 12 weeks if you can, because fat loss is not fun. And you can get quite fatigued from it. You can get sick of the same foods. You can get sick of just eating less. You can get sick of tracking. To avoid that and to avoid being overconsumed by it, try to keep them short and sweet. 12 weeks is a good amount of time. So you're going to do another fat loss and then you're going to go back out, you're going to reverse back out, and you're going to get back into maintenance again. So you're periodizing your nutrition, doing it in stages. You're not letting it take over your life. When you come back out of it and you feel like you're within like maybe 10 pounds, so maybe 5 or so kilos of your goal weight, what you should really do is try to focus on building some muscle. And I know that this is going to come with some resistance. There's going to be a lot of you that are probably like, heck no, I'm not building muscle. I don't want to do that. But trust me, you would benefit more from doing that than constantly trying to get off those last 5 kilos. And in the process, you will probably lose fat. Having more muscle mass is going to increase your metabolism back up again. As you're losing fat, your metabolism is naturally going to decline. So you do want to kind of try to counteract that by having the muscle mass. And if you focus more on building and building some muscle and lifting some heavy weights, then it's going to benefit you long term. You could probably, you'll probably end up feeling better about yourself. It'll help to fight that diet mentality. It's a more progressive mentality. It really is, and you feel stronger. I just strongly recommend it. If you don't want to do it, I would say to you to hold off on losing those last 5 kilos. I would say live in maintenance for a while and just feel good, especially when you know where you've come from mentally and you don't want to be there again. Take this time to be in maintenance, enjoy the balance, enjoy intuitive eating if you can. Try to just enjoy it, basically. Get out of that diet mentality for a little while, knowing that fat loss is always there, knowing that you know how to lose fat. And then, 6 months time, whatever, you want to try to chip away at that last 5 kilos, go for it. Go for another 8 to 12 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever you want to do and really take it seriously and then get out of it. Get back into maintenance indefinitely. If the weight starts to slowly come back on, you start to slowly feel a little bit tighter in your pants or whatever, you know what to do. Jump back into a fat loss for 8 to 12 weeks, get a little bit off, and then get back into maintenance. Eat intuitively. Fat loss is always there. That is the easy part. The hardest part is to embrace living out of a diet mentality. It's really a process. It's not easy, but by doing this in stages where you can feel the difference between a deficit and a maintenance, you should feel it. You should feel mentally so much lighter being in maintenance. And trust me, you will see what I mean when you do it. So that is the number one. That's the first S. The second S is sustainability. So this is going to be in your approach. So in the past, you might have had really restrictive approaches to weight loss, like I did, overdoing it on the cardio, good versus bad foods, stupid fad diets that never work. What you're going to do now is you're really going to try to focus on making sure that your approach is sustainable. And what I mean by that is look at what you're doing. Stop doing everything. Like, just stop. Like, cut it right back. Stop what you're doing. And I want you to say to yourself, right, what can I do now? What can I start doing now that I can see myself still doing in 12 weeks' time? Because that is the only way that you're actually going to be able to do the fat loss and finish that stage to be able to get into maintenance, which is where we want to end up. So what are you going to do that's sustainable that you can keep doing for 12 weeks? Some ideas are cutting back on the cardio. Cardio in a fat loss, I would implement very cautiously. It can make you super hungry. It can make it really hard for you to stick to your calories for the day. You can crave like sweets, and it can make just cravings in general really hard to combat. It can also, when done excessively in a deficit, you can risk losing muscle mass, especially if you're not counteracting that with some weights. So you can end up in a worse position physically than when you started. You can break down your lean muscle mass, so you may weigh less, but your BMR and your metabolism is going to be in a worse place than when you started. So implement it cautiously. You may inadvertently end up eating all of those calories back plus some. It's not a good approach when in a fat loss. If you really want to look at exercise for fat loss, the things I would look at implementing is walking and hitting a step goal. So maybe it's 8,000 steps. Say you have a desk job and you're getting 3,000 steps a day, try to increase it to 6,000 steps a day. Just try to focus on moving more. Incidental movement is going to be far more beneficial. Increasing that is going to be more beneficial than doing a 40-minute cardio session in the morning. Trust me. You can do it for 12 weeks. You can do it every day. Go listen to a podcast, implement some walking. The next thing I would suggest implementing is some weights, as I've said before. Go and follow some program. It only has to be 3, 4, 5 times a week. More is not more. You do need to have rest days. If you can keep doing that for 12 weeks, you might feel stronger in the end of this fat loss rather than completely depleted by doing cardio 7 days a week. And you might actually have some tone and muscle to show for it at the end of all of this. So if you can implement some weights, I would do that, and walking. They would be my things. That would be what I suggest in terms of exercise for sustainability, something that you can keep doing. You can keep doing that forever. Like, I can't imagine a time when I'm not going to be able to stop doing this. Like, I'm not going to have to stop doing it. I can walk every day. You can walk wherever you are. You can walk on holidays. You can walk on vacations. Anyone can get walking in. And strength stuff, there's gyms everywhere. You can always go and do some weights somewhere. I could not envision myself continuing doing what I was doing for years to come. I hated them mainly. Sometimes I couldn't get my head around doing them, but I still did them. You know, F45 as well. I'm not having a go at F45, but F45, it's expensive, and who wants to keep doing that for the next 12 to 15 years? You know, like, who can imagine doing that forever? So sustainability, look at it long term. And then the next thing would be diet, sustainability around your diet. So, excuse me, what do you want to eat what do you eat now? What do you want to eat in your fat loss, and what do you want to eat after the fat loss? They should all be the same. There should not actually be any differences. So if you currently eat pizza on a Friday night, for example, and you look forward to it with your family, you should still be able to do that on a Friday night with your family in a deficit. You've just got to manage it better in terms of tracking. You've just got to account for it. If you like sweets and chocolate, account for it. Track it, pre-log it, ensure that you have some in your MyFitnessPal ready to go for the next day. I have little mini ice creams nearly every day while I'm in a fat loss, just because I know I'm going to have sweets during this next, the 12-week fat loss, or I'm never going to last. Like, that would be completely unrealistic for me not to have chocolate or ice cream in this 12 weeks. I like bread. I have toast every day. I have cream, half and half in my coffee. Just include all the foods you like, but track them so that you can actually account for them. And then when you come out of it into maintenance, you can just increase the quantities. There shouldn't be diet foods versus not diet foods, maintenance foods, fat loss foods. It should all be the same, but you're just kind of monitoring it and adjusting it better, accounting for it better. And then when you come into maintenance, you just increase your quantities a little bit. That really should all be what it's about. So keep it sustainable. The final S is sustained. I had to find a word starting with S that meant long-term. So long-term mentality. Remove any deadlines. This is really important. So I was always like trying to lose weight for something. So there was always like a holiday coming up, or a wedding, or someone's like a function or whatever. I was always like trying to lose weight for it, thinking that for some reason that would make the function or the vacation better or more enjoyable, when really it didn't. I couldn't enjoy my vacations anyway. I was so consumed with this whole thing. I had to go find a gym. I had to like go for runs. I couldn't enjoy the food. And that comes down to a control thing as well. So anyway, didn't matter. So just remove the deadlines. Remove any timelines, look at it as long term. I always tell people it's going to be months, not weeks. And for that long term result that you're looking for, it's going to be years, not months. So again, we're going to be periodizing our nutrition. It's going to take a number of different stages to get there. If you're looking to build muscle, you're going to need lengthy periods in maintenance at least to build that muscle, followed by cuts to slowly kind of get rid of some of the fat. And then you go back into a maintenance, build some more muscle, spend 6 months or so in there, go back into a cut. So it's going to take years for me to get to where I'm finally feeling confident in my body. I'm feeling proud of myself. It's taken, excuse me, it's taken, I'm going to say, a couple of years probably to get here. So a lot of learning, a lot of like structured weights. So it's a long-term approach. So you've got to look into the future. And again, even when you're in fat loss, be realistic with your expectations. You're not going to lose all the fat in 4 weeks. You'll probably need a number of different fat loss stages to get to your goal. So 12 weeks, you'll lose a little bit, you'll get back into maintenance, you come back and try again for another 12 weeks. So just long-term thinking. Get rid of the short-term thinking. It's not going to get you anywhere. It comes from a place of panic, false expectations, desperation. We don't need that. That's not going to get you to where you want to get. You need to be relaxed. You need to calm down. You need some patience, persistence, consistency. It all comes back to the absolute fundamentals that you need to get out of that deficit mentality. So the absolute fundamentals that you need to remove yourself from there. And if you don't have these, then you're probably not going to get to where you want to be. You need to have some consistency, be consistent. You can't be in and out. You can't be off and on, because it needs a level of commitment. You need persistence. You need to push through the hard times. It's not always going to be easy. The scale is not going to always do what you want it to do. You're going to have times where you are feeling like you're regressing back into that old mentality. you need to push through and be persistent and remember your why and why you want to get out of this mentality. You're going to need some discipline as well. There are going to be days when you don't want to do certain things, but you kind of just need to show up for yourself and keep doing it. So there are some absolute non-negotiables that you need to follow in order to get out of this. It's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to take commitment. You will need to strip back potentially what you're doing now and look at it objectively. Look at yourself as a third person and think, what would I say to that person, being yourself, if you wanted to design something for them that would remove them from a constant state of dieting mentality, fat loss, obsession? What would you design for them? What would you say? I dare say it's not going to be do cardio 7 days a week and restrict, try keto, try not to eat any carbs. Like, it's just not going to be that. Prioritize sleep, just cut down your cardio, get some steps in, track your food intake, include all the foods that you enjoy in your diet, keep it as consistent, as sustainable as possible. Sustainability has to be the underlying message. And remember that your long-term goal for all of this is going to be just living in maintenance, living in a state where you can eat intuitively and keep the weight off. You know how to get the weight off if you need to at any point where you feel like you're gaining a little bit of weight. You know what you need to do if you are gaining weight, but you're living in a state of maintenance indefinitely. So it gives you that freedom to live your life without being completely consumed by this. So I hope that has helped somewhat. Please comment below if you have any questions, if you need any further clarification on anything. I'm really sorry if this has seemed long-winded, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And good luck with everything.